Okay, so Allison sent out a revised copy of the meeting minutes because she probably just pulled from the one before, and Lisa wasn't in attendance at the last meeting, so she updated that. Did anybody have any issues with the minutes?
I did not.
Can I have a motion to accept the minutes?
Motion to accept the minutes.
I second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna let Lee go, and if Lee, if you're not feeling that well and you wanna log off after you say your part, that's up to you. If you wanna stay on the whole time, whatever you wanna do.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go
No
ahead.
problem. Okay, so the Friends have a few holiday things coming up, including a floral workshop on the 4th at Lucille's. That would be December 4th. And the holiday craft extravaganza on Saturday, the 6th will be going on. Our next meeting is the 25th of November, so that's a Tuesday night, and other plans are in the works, but nothing firmed up at this point. So that's my report.
I am not around on the 25th, but I am going to, as of right now, plan to attend help you guys with the holiday craft event. So you can count me in as a volunteer for that day.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Okay. And that's it, Lee, you said? Sorry, I didn't want to.
Yeah, no, that's just about it until the
Okay.
next meeting. We don't have
Okay.
too much else going on.
Perfect, excellent. All right, Andrew.
Okay, did everybody get the report? Does anybody need a copy?
Got it?
The report, okay. Staff. So Brenda Whitner, who's been with us, I think for about 3 years, gave her notice.
Oh,
Yeah, she will be moving up to Athol to be closer to her daughter and granddaughter.
no. Good for her, but that's sad.
Yeah, and so she's actually here through the end of the month, but her last official day is whatever that last Saturday is at the end of the month. I have reached out to staff, talked about redistributing hours and whether or not anybody is interested in additional hours. I do have some movement on that. There are some staff who are interested in some of the shifts. Still trying to work out the Saturday shift, which is always an issue. But if it turns out that we still have scheduling gaps, shift gaps, I do have somebody in mind from the last search we did who was very good. She's actually a college student and at least at the time worked over at Tatnick in Westboro. Both Tara and I really liked her. As a matter of fact, she used to be a patron at the old library.
Nice.
Yeah, because I had recognized the name last time. I'm like, this name is familiar. And
Okay.
then she mentioned that she was a regular user of the old library. So if there are, like I said, gaps in the schedule, we will reach out to her. I've already informed Jen in HR that we may do that.
So is that as a temporary fill, or is
Well, I
that as a
think-
potential if she's interested in
I
taking on
think
a
there's,
position?
I think that there's probably not gonna be a lot of regular hours. My thought was, I have somebody who's on call right now, but she just doesn't have availability.
Okay,
So it might be along the lines of a, small set of hours per week, but that she'd be on call and potentially could take.
filling other stuff, okay.
And so it's almost like replacing an on-call with another on-call. That would be my thought at this point. So we'll see. I know that she was interested when we talked to her last time after we had filled the 2 positions to say, Jen had reached out to her in HR just to find out if she had interest in working with us
Okay.
a couple of months ago, so we'll see, but she definitely was interested. So,
That's great.
let's see, we have a staff meeting this next Tuesday. At that time, we'll go over the December schedule and confirm Brenda's hours to this point and how they're going to be divided. We'll also talk about staff training. I'm still working on having the two newest hires, getting them up to speed on processing and cataloging. and having them overlap with other staff so that they can shadow other staff on processing and cataloging. We'll talk a little bit more about that that night. So far, so good. They're learning Evergreen fairly well. I have a couple more things I want to go over with them on Evergreen, but I do think it is, at this point, more so training and processing and cataloging of various types of materials.
Okay.
We'll get there. Let's see. Wednesday before Thanksgiving, I talked to Jeremy. We have a monthly one-on-one now. And he said that any individual, if you close early on that day, to make sure that everybody scheduled for that day gets paid their hours, even if it was until, for example, 7 p.m. So.
So they get paid for their full hours?
Yes.
Even if you closed early, okay?
So even if, like, so if we're open 10 to 2, but I have individuals who come in later in the day, 4 to 7, they will be credited their hours that day. I suspect that that's what's gonna happen with Christmas Eve as well, going forward. It's a lot like snow days now. Before, snow days weren't necessarily credited for part-time workers, but they are at this point. If we have a snow day, everybody does get paid for.
Oh, that's nice.
So, and that's with the newer town administrator.
Right.
That's his policy. Let's see, goal setting. So, I talked to Jeremy about goals and I said, you know, some people who are like 8 to 10 hours a week. And his take on it is that really something like that, or if somebody's 8 to 10 hours a week, you don't have to really set goals per se. I meet with staff members, or will be meeting with them this year for evaluations. It'll be a little bit different setup going forward, but always sort of touch base on where things are at and the things that could be worked on.
Mm-hmm.
He said that that's probably pretty adequate. The one individual that I want to set goals for would be Tara, as the town member. So we did talk some about that. We covered a lot of ground, which was good.
Right.
All my one-on-ones with him lately have been really good.
That's great that you're gonna make your meeting more
Yeah.
regularly. I have
Yeah.
the hardest time with that word all the time.
It's all right. Facilities. So Carol and Therese now have keys. Hallelujah.
Nice.
Correct keys. Parks keys.
Excellent.
Good thing. So we're set there. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to get. I want to get a couple additional keys just for example, in case there's some issue and the friends need a key or whatnot.
Okay.
You know, just so I need to read. He said he wasn't able to get additional keys, so I'm gonna have to put in a separate order. But it sounds like we can do that. I was kind of hoping to get 4 keys from him, but in any event, we'll have to do another order and hope that it, you know.
Yeah, because it would be nice if you had some keys here that you could kind of almost
have
sign
a little
out, like,
flexibility.
so you know that you gave it to
Exactly.
Lee or Lisa or, you know, somebody. And then when they return it, you could sign it back in kind of thing,
Right.
you know?
Yep, exactly. And, you know, we had the, my on-call person who had to drop her key off so that Carol had a key. When
Oh,
we
right.
didn't have the keys.
Yeah.
It's just, there's different scenarios in which.
And then you gotta get it back to that person and, yeah.
So just having some additional keys to fall back on is a good idea.
Okay,
So I put in 2 work orders with facilities recently. I don't know who it was. We were talking the other day, there's little work boards outside. So Dan took care of those. Actually, the boards out there, it's like a strange composite material. I'm not sure what it is. So then we're kind of looking at it. It chips as opposed to like, you know, it's weird. It's
They're
strange
from-
stuff.
where are they from? What part of the,
And like there's a railing, you know, the emergency exit down here.
yeah,
It's a railing above.
okay, yeah,
And that railing was starting to warp on
Okay.
either end. And so Dan, it doesn't take much to fasten them. I think they used the wrong size screws originally. So that was a big part of the problem. And then in
so Dan
some
just
cases-
fixed it as opposed to
Yeah.
hiring somebody, okay,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
well,
fine.
and because facilities is a facility
Right.
at this point. So
Right,
There's a couple other areas where it seems like boards have shrunk a bit, and so he's got to put some filler in and do some repainting. I mean, the building is what now? 8 years old, so
Crazy to think it's that old.
over time, this sort of thing's gonna happen, but all the fixes so far look good. We also had a bollard, like post out here, right next to the walkway, that was backed into, it probably was at least a year ago. And so fell over and off of its base. The problem is that it needs to be fixed and the collar sort of redone and then screwed into the collar. So they're working on that. So little stuff like that, it's great. I can
Nice.
just work order through and there you go.
That's good.
When John Dudley stopped by to take a look at the bollard the other week, there was another guy with him, Michael Balakwa. I had no clue that he is now the town groundskeeper.
Okay.
So I had Duist in, and they were doing leaf cleanup the other day, and then he came by, or he had come by earlier in the day to do leaf cleanup. I didn't realize, literally on the same day, so he went off for lunch and then came back, and then he saw Duist was here, because clearly I was having them do leaf cleanup. He's like, what's going on here? Because I've had a group come in to do grounds work.
Yep.
So my understanding now, and I said, hey, listen, that's fine by me if there's a groundskeeper that is doing this and on top of this stuff. I'll make sure that this is Duist's last visit and we go forward from there. Apparently he's been the groundskeeper since July, but I didn't know this at all.
I've never heard that either.
And so, literally during the summer, there were, weeds coming up out of the mulch and so forth that probably could have been dealt with by the groundskeeper if I had known that there was a groundskeeper. So, be that as it may, all of anything around here, trimming, mulching, grass cutting, leaf blowing, clearing a brush, all of that stuff, he is in charge of it. So apparently I can just put a work order in and he'll come over and deal with the grounds.
Super.
What's the name?
Michael Balakwa.
Bellacqua.
Yeah. But we walked the property, then I said, will you take care of this? Basically trying to think of all the things that I've had Duist do, and I said, yeah.
Poison ivy in the front.
Yeah, my understanding is anything like trimming the bushes out front of the rectory as well, cutting them back.
Good.
All that stuff, so we'll see how it goes.
Super.
I had to contact Duist and say that we
Yeah,
could no
that's
longer
too
employ
bad.
them, which is too bad, because they were actually really good.
Yeah,
And I said, if anything should ever change, you'll be the first I call.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
that's not your fault.
It's not your
fault.
The town's going, that's okay.
Right.
right, absolutely. And honestly, initially it was to, I knew parks could only get here at certain times and they were cutting the grass, but there were other things that weren't happening.
Yeah, because it was just Dan, the poor guy
Right.
was spread too thin.
Yeah, and the trimming and little manicuring and landscaping were things that weren't necessarily happening, so it made sense. But if there's somebody now, then
So he's supposed to be doing all of the landscaping no matter what.
all of that stuff.
Okay.
I mean, outside, the only thing that he wouldn't do, obviously, is when we have tree issues, because that takes the tree,
Warden.
Tree warden, yeah.
Sure.
But everything else sounds like he'd be, and like I said, mulch and so forth, they cover the cost. I don't think they cover the cost, and I don't know, maybe, I should probably double check that. I
Yeah.
would assume that they do, but
If it's through a work order system, they should,
Yeah.
but we'll,
I'll check, I can
we'll double check, because they may not have built out a budget for the whole thing
That's-
yet. They may still be in transition to.
Right, so it might be something that where we would have paid for it anyways, out of our budget, maybe it's just kind of like I take from here to pay that and
And it's not like it's not
And
something
it's
we haven't covered.
kind of all goes through Jeremy anyways.
Right. So, so we'll see how that goes going forward.
Great.
I did talk to Lee about, and the friends, about the armchairs upstairs in the periodicals area. There's about 2,400 left in the relocation fund. That probably would cover the cost on the 4 chairs. But then after that, the relocation fund is pretty much closed out. So I did talk to Jeremy about, like for example, we've got the furniture back there in the pergola that needs some TLC because of cushions that have been chewed through. And
Right.
I said, well, going forward, it's not like a capital expense. It's not really a capital expense. Like you could use operations money on it, and we have before. The other thing that could be done, but this is something that the trustees would have to discuss and decide on, is use of state aid on furniture. Other libraries have used state aid on furniture before. I know that that's like a common cost, but
I
That's
wouldn't be
something-
opposed to it, but I mean, we didn't bring it to a vote, but I
Right.
would be. I
but
would
just
be
sort of
opposed
putting
to
it out there that that's another direction. Could build in a line also in the next budget cycle. He said you can create a line if you need to, or a furniture line, so we can see if that would work as well. As we get closer to budget time, which actually is not that far off anymore, so. Any questions about staff or facilities?
So
Yes.
with this, initial chairs that you need to replace,
Right.
are we just gonna move forward and take that money out of the relocation fund? and
I'm gonna
close that
talk to them,
account out?
I'm gonna talk to them at the next Friends meeting.
Okay.
I'd like to do that. We found some, I'm not sure that the problem right now is we have to find the style that we really like.
Okay,
I saw some, but I'm not sure, they're somewhat similar to the ones upstairs, but I'd like to take a further look through. I think we got these through Demco.
I think so too, yeah.
Demco doesn't carry that particular look anymore. There's something that's kind of close to it, that has cup holders and that, and I'm like,
Yeah, you don't-
we need the bells and whistles on that.
Yeah, and you don't need to, well, I mean,
I think
people
that
do
there might
bring
be
their
something
drinks, but you don't
yeah.
need to attract extra.
Encourage them.
Encourage,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. I think that if there was something a little simpler, pretty straightforward, like what we have up there, that would be helpful. And so I'll take a look through the catalog and
Okay.
see if there's anything else that, or online, probably.
Yeah, or.
Yeah, I mean, we could, yeah, it
Or
doesn't have to
Staples.
be Demco, it could be any number of suppliers.
Yeah. But definitely wheels.
Yeah, I
So you
think
guys move
so.
them frequently.
Yeah, I mean, like literally, and I know this happens, that they're partly wheeled and then partly have the legs on them. The problem is sometimes they just get dragged
Yes,
when you need to lift them up and use the wheels on them, but it'd be nice if, I mean, I would assume that's probably what it'll be next time too, like, I don't think you'd get just.
yeah, because we don't want
Completely
four
wheeled.
wheels, because then they'll be sliding all over the place all the time. Or kids,
That
or,
could be fun to watch.
Yeah.
Should be interesting, but we'll take a look, and there are some different.
Not
options.
definitely. So we just have to get more better at
I
that.
need more information, but yeah,
Yeah, but yeah, you're gonna want two solid legs.
yeah.
Keep them from rolling all the time.
Right. Budget, we are really on target, which is very interesting. 23,290 was spent from the budget in October. 13,131 of that from salaries and 10,159 from operations. To this point, 33.3% of the overall budget has been expended. After 4 months, that's exactly where it should be.
Yep, that's great.
Which is great. Split out, that means 30.4% of salaries has been spent and 36.7% of operations. So we're on target there. Largest expenditures for the month, outside of the salaries, a little close to 1,000 in supplies, 1,700 in building maintenance, about 4,800 in books, and 1,800 in programming. One quick thing to add about books and the books budget. Unfortunately, Baker and Taylor, who is one of our larger suppliers of books, has gone under.
Ooh,
Yeah. So they They had trouble during COVID, and then this last year, there was a major security breach, which really messed things up for them, and they just haven't been able to rebound.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, it's too bad. I actually used to use them when I had a bookstore long ago, like in 2000, so I've used them literally for the last 25 years.
Oh, goodness.
There are some other options. We do some ordering through Amazon, but I don't want to get in the habit of ordering the majority of our titles through them. Barnes and Noble, last time I was there, because I was picking up a couple of books, they gave me some information about a new program they have, a library purchasing program. So we'll look into that.
Okay.
MHEC, which is a consortium out of Amherst, and has lists of suppliers, and one of the categories is books. They'll help facilitate if we want to look at some other options. So Scholastic, Road Art, Ingram in particular is probably the one that we'll look into first because it's closest to Baker and Taylor in terms of scope, in terms of what they have available. We'll look into that also. So we're, for the time being, we've been doing, smaller purchases through Amazon and Barnes and Noble, but we'll get a larger supplier. So just have to get that in the works.
With those, the question.
Yeah.
With those, does it require a contract? Like, do you have to go to them and say, hey, we're going to likely have this percentage of purchases through you or this dollar amount annually? And does that then give you any perks, bonuses, such as discounts or
Well, I
anything?
think this is what the MHEC, that's what they're designed to do, is to help facilitate
Oh, okay.
a discount schedule through those suppliers.
Oh, okay.
And it's
But
because.
do you have to guarantee them a certain amount,
No.
percentage of
No.
orders?
No, it's a Massachusetts, they're not, how do I explain it? They're a consortium, so they're servicing most of the libraries across Massachusetts.
Cool. Gotcha.
So there isn't a sort of like, oh, we'll take 5%, or you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In terms of, So, but in any event, we haven't worked with them as much,
Sure.
but they can be valuable for different things, not just books, obviously, but, well, furniture too. So, for example, could, work with them in terms of securing better value as
Sure.
well. So,
Okay.
I have a contact there. I can ask her and reach out about furniture as well.
Be interesting to see if the Barnes and Noble library program does require you to commit to a certain
Dollar amount.
That's a good question. Yeah, I have to investigate that further. We could, but
I mean, it's smart. If I was a private industry, I would.
I would, right,
Because that's
exactly.
It's a smart contract, you're gonna get X number of dollars coming in, but,
Right.
no, thank you for explaining,
Yeah.
I've never
Yeah.
had to deal with it.
Yeah.
You don't really ever think about how the books get
No,
here.
it's just magic, right?
It's just here.
There you go.
And we do get,
Fairy drops them
and at Baker and Taylor, we were getting, usually about 40 to 45% off. That's pretty standard for most, suppliers.
Okay.
But we might be able to even do better through MHEC.
Well, might as well utilize them if that's, if they're there to help, right?
Yep, absolutely. Let's see, programs, everything's going well on that?
No, you're
Oh,
good,
sorry.
sorry, my programs.
No, no problem.
We're good.
His brain just went to another.
So, I mean, obviously the story times and story and craft time and that, the numbers have been great. Had a couple really good attendance numbers during the month, including Evan Handler, who does music, children's music at the Blissful. 62 attended that. The paranormal event with Jeff Belanger and Dustin Parry brought in 42.
That's great.
The Halloween party, there were 76 in attendance.
That's fabulous.
And then, some other ones that just consistently are doing really well. Music and movement with Deb Hudgens. There were 2 sessions, but she had 78 participants. One thing that unfortunately Deb Hudgens is retired
Oh,
in the
no.
spring, so
She's been doing this forever.
she's been doing it for a long time and doing it very well.
Yeah.
And,
The Music Together franchise, though, likely there'll be a new name carrying it on. So
Oh,
there's very well likely already someone else in the
Does
process.
Deb Hutchins work for Music
No,
Together?
no,
Or
she's
on
used
her
to.
own? Oh, she
is on
used
her
to.
own. So like,
Yeah.
Okay.
there's a lot of those
Yeah.
things come from that same.
I think Tara's trying to identify
Yeah.
maybe another individual who do sort of a regular, Deb was doing 2 sessions per month. And it was relatively inexpensive. I always felt that she should probably charge more. But Tara's on the hunt for somebody else who potentially she could use regularly, monthly, and perhaps get a decent deal because we're using them more regularly.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah. But if you happen to know of somebody, let us know. 'Cause I'm sure we'll be looking for that in the spring.
Yeah.
There's upcoming programs in November. I won't go over each of those, but you can take a look. Projects. So I've been locating and uploading meeting minutes to a shared folder Dan put online.
Oh, excellent, okay.
He had a lot of our minutes. We have minutes, I believe, from about 2011 forward. The gap that he had was from 2023 to 2025. Yeah, which I thought was something he had pulled off the site beforehand, but apparently, I don't know if there was an issue with getting them onto
That's weird.
the new page. the
And
new
you're talking
page.
trustee minutes,
Yes.
okay.
So I've been finding them in my files. I may have to come to the trustees at some point to see which ones I'm missing. It's been a little bit slapdash, so I've probably uploaded around 20 sets of minutes at this point and working my way through. to
Just let
find
me know
everything.
which ones you're missing, and if it's my time as secretary, I can usually get them.
Okay. And before you, who was the?
What was that girl's name?
secretary? Was it
Should
Shayna? No,
Yes.
it was
yes,
Shayna.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shana Miller?
Yeah, when
Yeah,
I
Shayna,
started,
sorry,
she was
Shayna.
the secretary.
Don't remember her being a trustee.
She was for a year or two?
That's when I started, she was. I took,
Because you started before I did,
What
right?
year did you start?
I
Or those
came,
we start the
I
same year?
filled in when someone left before their term was out.
Okay. All right.
Who was
Sharon,
that?
was it Sharon Luttrell?
No, it was the lady who moved to the Cape,
Oh,
worked for an architect. Yeah, Amy
Amy Fahey.
Yeah. She was leaving mid-term, and so I stepped in
Oh,
and filled in
okay.
for her, finishing that term, and Shayna was the.
secretary at
Yeah.
the time.
Did you start would it have been 2023 or was it? Okay. I'm gonna keep looking and see how many I.
Well, I
can
feel
find
like-
and then-
We're both on our second terms,
Right,
our second 3-year term, so we had to have been here in 2023.
Right.
yeah.
I mean, it's a small amount of minutes to.
You started
We
in
started
23.
23.
So
I have to-
we're old.
The end of because I was down in DC when that. Yeah.
When you first started,
Yeah.
right, okay.
All right. I mean, so far so good. The thing with minutes is that when individuals do minutes, they sometimes, the file is titled differently, so I have to search around a little bit. I didn't necessarily change the file name, which is probably would have been helpful. Like, have some, consistency, minutes to minutes.
Watch out, we're gonna make a manual for making, manual for the process to make minutes.
Basically,
Well,
then it
when
would have
we
all
get
been
that
one sort of.
Template thing going on, then that'll be different too.
Yeah.
It'll make things easier.
Yeah.
But it's just a transfer from the one website to the other, I'm sure.
Renaming would have clumped them all together very nicely. Oh,
I can get, all the ones I've done, I can
Okay.
get to you very easily.
yeah, and I'll let you know because I'm
Okay.
still working through it. Let's see. Weeding projects, still doing shelf reading and weeding. Adult nonfiction is in the 900s. And we're also starting to do a cull of adult audiobooks on CD. Still in the children's nonfiction section, doing shelf reading and reading there as well. Let's see, town news. I did put in a work order with World Band to restore the settings on our patron computers. I do have a ticket number, but I have not heard back from them. This would have been, I think, end of last week. They sent a ticket number, and hopefully I'll hear from them soon. I did talk to Jeremy about the lack of consistency from visit to visit. When World Band comes by, he said, what will solve that is having like comprehensive IT inventory, which is not just inventorying of the hardware and the equipment, but also inventory, making note of the settings and what you want on each desktop.
And who does that?
Well, to start it, we would.
Yeah,
Yeah, because we're the ones, that, based on experience and, and what we've done historically, we would say, this is what we want on the computers, what access should be granted, and how things should move.
Okay.
So that, temporary files are deleted, and all that process. And once that structure is set up, then it's should be their responsibility to implement.
right.
Okay.
And to ensure that it's, that's the way it is when they arrive, once they've completed their job.
Yeah.
And the other thing, there's something I was gonna mention about the IT inventory. What was it? I do not remember. I'll get back to it.
My bad.
No, that's all right. No, when I met with Jeremy, he mentioned that he took the library technician contract and brought it back to Jennifer O'Neill to rework. There were things that he felt needed to be reworked on that. I did send everybody the template, the quote unquote template for a children's librarian contract.
Yeah, so that was, okay.
No, and I said that could be in a future meeting. I just wanted to make sure I
No,
sent
that's
it out.
totally
to
fine. I
everyone.
have a question on that.
Yeah,
So, obviously this is a template.
right. There are things that will need to be tweaked and changed.
Of course, so
Based on the-
whose responsibility is that? Is that us as a group? We sit down, we delete this and we put in Tara's employment duties, or do they do that?
I would say it wouldn't hurt to.
So like we give them
touch
a
base
draft,
with- Yeah,
we give them a draft and then they
Yeah.
kind of make it.
yeah, and I would say, highlight whatever sections you've added in, or if that you're going to excise, send that to Jeremy.
Okay,
And I would probably reach out to him. just-
yeah, and I'll touch base with Lisa because my guess is Lisa probably worked on it more as far as your contract
Probably,
goes.
yeah.
Than I was involved, or maybe your contract was more set.
Yeah, and I think it was set a while back, and then, there have been tweaks.
We made
so-
tweaks, but not as much as what's here,
What
so.
what you may need to do.
Okay.
with this.
So, I guess what is the timeline on doing this?
Well,
What's happening?
obviously, the contract, I think they want to have in place for the next fiscal year. So FY '27, right? Yeah,
Sweet, 7 months, 8 months.
yeah, there's time, and that's why I just wanted to get it out to everybody to make sure that
Okay.
it's off of my to-do list.
Yeah,
And I don't want to forget about it.
so I know, but I wanna make sure that we have a timeline so that we're not just like, meeting to meeting, we're like, oh, this isn't
Right.
happening, this isn't
Yeah.
happening. Like, we, at some point, will need to come up with a game plan as to who's working on it, who's,
Yeah, absolutely.
taking responsibility for getting the information we need and communicating it to, do we communicate it through Jeremy and then he
I would
works
say
through
probably,
HR?
yeah, you can certainly,
Start with him and
I
then
would start
he'll-
with him, copy Jen O'Neill in HR on it.
Okay,
I think that's
I
one.
think that's fair. Something else to keep on the radar, and it's not something that absolutely has to be determined tonight or whatever, is that we do have 5,000 in our budget for that carriage house platform. Nothing's really quite happened with it yet, so I don't know.
before the end of the year?
No, I don't think it has to be before the end of the year. I mean, within this fiscal year, we definitely need to take care of it, because it's the kind of thing, it's a one-time
Yes,
amount that has been designated for that. We're not gonna wanna do anything over the winter either, probably, but certainly in the spring, I would think we'd wanna.
No, but we can talk design across
Oh,
the
absolutely,
region, so it's
yeah.
springtime when we call John Dudley and say, hey, this is what we want.
Right.
We give them the first right of refusal before we go out to a contractor. Because if it's something the town can execute, like our new
Right.
landscape dude,
Right,
you know, let's use our town resources.
and maybe it's something that's more sort of a temporary thing until we know exactly what we want, but, you know.
Yeah, but we don't wanna spend too much money on a temporary and then,
Right, no, understood, yeah. I mean, I know that there's the safety concern of it.
right,
Which was the onus of why we
just to
we
begin
did it
with,
to
right.
begin with, to
Right.
say, here, you know, for $5,000, we could get ourselves a safe environment that we could use
Right.
without, you know, breaking the bank.
Right.
So, yeah, no, there's nothing saying we can't start
So I said,
our
it's out of-
design discussion. over
We're
the next couple
talking about
meetings.
over
Yeah.
the winter time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing would probably get executed until the spring, but at least it's in the works and we have a plan.
Yeah.
Okay,
On the same day, a couple weeks ago, I was reached out to by two NISCO middle school staff. I thought, this is interesting, but I think that there's maybe sort of like an outreach component happening for teachers now. That's part of their.
Teachers, okay.
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question because I heard from Julie Stanis, who is a reading instructor over at NISCO, and then the 7th and 8th grade art teachers over at NISCO, who wanted to know about displaying artwork. And I said, well, that's, Clef is already,
Mr.
Clef is
Hanson.
already doing that. Yeah, Mr. Hanson. So they're already doing that. And so I sent him shots of the stairwell area and then sent him shots of this wall, which I'm actually thinking of. We're talking about getting just one of those easy 6-footer, maybe a little bit bigger, art display racks that have the hang down.
Sure.
You know, the rods that hang down.
Oh, yeah.
and everything, so that we could use that space. Not that I don't love the quilt, but kind of nice to be able to do something here.
It can rotate.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
So,
famous museums rotate
Yes.
art. There's nothing wrong with that.
exactly. So I took a photo without
Relocate.
the quilt on the wall there. So, I think he said he was gonna stop by at some point, even if he doesn't, we're gonna go ahead and do that. And then when they're ready to do some art displays, we'll have the space.
that's awesome.
Speaking of schools.
Yes.
I did sit through the Clough council meeting.
Oh.
So with Principal
Okay.
Garden,
Nice.
and they were ecstatic with last year's interactions and their,
Oh, really?
and
Okay.
their, in, what was the term? That learner.
Yeah, what is that?
Well, I'm blanking, but
Something learner.
yes, they loved it, and,
Okay.
Inspired Learning Day.
Inspired learning.
Oh, okay.
And they're hoping, they want to do it again. They will come back to you, no question, and they are, as I reminded them, the library is a great resource to do a lot more than even just that. So,
Right, right.
Liz is all over it,
Oh,
so
excellent.
we're tracking.
Awesome.
Are you familiar with the Inspired Learning Day?
Yes,
thing At the school district?
yes,
This happens throughout all the schools.
Yes.
So, and then typical production,
Yeah.
gyms used, and they're trying desperately to get the primary schools involved.
well,
There we go.
Principal Garden's all over it and drove it hard last year and is driving it again, so. Yep, it's tracking.
And reading instructor at NISCO, I met with her, what was it, not yesterday, the day before. And she works with kids who are struggling readers, many of whom probably haven't made the library sort of a regular thing for themselves, maybe just not even, it's never been part of a routine in their lives. Most of whom think of a library as, well, it has books that I don't want to read.
No
Yeah.
offense, if you're a struggling reader, which I was growing up,
Yeah,
you stay away from books.
right. And so,
I'm not saying that I do
Yeah.
now, but like, it's hard, when you're a struggling reader,
Yeah.
it's like that learning thing, like if someone inspires you
Yeah.
to, or helps you to not be so struggling,
exactly.
that's great.
So what she wanted was for us to do maybe like a presentation, 5 minutes or so, just to talk about the library and not just obviously the books that we have available, what other materials we have available, what other programs we do. I said to her, in some cases, this place is kind of a blank slate. If somebody wanted to do something, like have a particular club, we know how to facilitate that, or we have facilitated that before. So we can talk about all that. She said, I don't know if you want to come in or be here and do a Zoom. And in talking to Tara, I think a Zoom actually would be kind of cool, because then you could actually go around the
Oh, yeah.
library and
Yeah.
show as we talked about it. So right now, we're scheduled to talk to 2 classes on December 1st. We might move that out depending on, because we need to put this together. So we're gonna talk with the 2 classes, and I said to her, so I was talking with Tara, like, what are your thoughts on like a book club? Like a graphic novel book club, like struggling readers, a graphic novel.
That's
book club would
perfect,
be really
right.
good. So she's gonna pitch that or talk to the principal about that, and I don't know if she's got some other teachers who are reading teachers or whatever that she's gonna discuss that with. I said, this could be the sort of thing like we do over at high school where it's every month, or it could be done, every other month, or you could do it, 3 times a year, 4 times a year, depending on, what you think is gonna work. There's no pressure. So she's gonna think about that and go over whether or not to do something like that, so that is good. And then, the only other, bit of info is that I attended, a CW Mars meeting on managed internet lines. CW Mars, handles our, Wi-Fi.
Mhm.
And the purpose of the meeting was to discuss the cost of managed internet, should federal and state funding disappear.
Sure.
Currently, 2,044 of our total for our Meraki wireless lines, which is 2,556, is paid for through state grants. But what happens if those state grants go away? And so, sorry,
Is that like the state grant? So like when we talk about like
Yeah.
the big bulk state grant that we get for the library,
oh, no, different,
this is a separate one.
separate.
Uh-huh,
Yes.
interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So this is a separate one that's basically given to CW Mars that they distribute?
Yes,
Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's cool.
yeah. And so, what they were saying is, or recommending to libraries is that they would want to potentially budget for the full amount for FY '27 with the thought that perhaps that money won't be there. So that's one option. Another option is to look at becoming CIPA compliant, SIPA compliant, and filing E-rate, which would allow for there to be a discount of the total cost. And then if there's any state grant money at all, that could also be factored in so that we don't pay the full amount of 2,500, or who knows, maybe next year it's 27, 28, I don't know. Yes,
So third option.
Yeah.
If we're going down that road.
Yep.
And the state's no longer saying, here's what, here's the money to do this and the system to do it, why can't the town do our own wired system?
you could.
Okay.
You could, we just chose to go through CWMRs. Other libraries have done other things,
Sure.
and so we could.
Are we precluded from access to anything if we use another service?
That's a good question.
Because doing it through CW Mars, I'm sure gets you access to the suite of the things we need, plus more.
Right, and yes, so for example, if there is an issue with our wireless, there's, part of the service of the wireless line or the upgrading, which we had done I think it was about a year ago. That was all done through CWMRs and it's part of the total cost.
Gotcha. Okay.
So depending on what you found, you just have to make sure that they would service the lines, that they would do the proper upgrades, et cetera.
Okay.
So just so I understand, because there's a little bit of a confusion here.
Yeah, that's right.
Are they in the hardware side or the service side
Yeah, I was kind of wondering that
of,
too.
of providing service?
They we actually have to pay for some of the hardware
Okay,
that is put in.
okay.
The service they provide.
So is that a wired internet service and you provide, or they provide equipment for wireless access? Or
Yeah, they provide equipment for wireless access.
Understood. So that's within your building?
Yes,
Okay, good.
yes.
So then, additional to that, do they have other services on the internet side that are provided, as James was saying, for libraries? Is that what's?
That you have access to because because CWRs manages your internet lines.
So
Is it
you're
given-
asking if there's additional, what in particular,
It's
sorry?
like Meraki it sounds like Meraki, you're paying that fee just for the wired connection to the internet and wireless devices inside.
No, it's also for the service. Is that what you're asking?
Well, the internet service or the,
Their service, their servicing of the unit, their upgrading of the hardware. The things what they don't typically pay for is the hardware itself, so we actually have to pay additional for.
So they'll come to you and say, your hardware needs to be upgraded, and they do it for you, but you.
They'll do it.
they'll-
Yes, exactly. Does that?
Yeah, a little, yeah, it does.
Yeah. So any of the hardware we have.
They
to
maintain it all, but
They maintain
with the
it.
hardware, it comes out of your own
It
budget.
pretty much the hardware.
and then CWMR is gonna be a direct replacement of exactly that capability, or are they doing something additional for that?
Not that I am.
Okay, so it's the same, it's a direct replacement. That's the idea, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And this is an annual cost, correct?
Yes,
It's on here.
Yeah.
So $213 a month
yeah,
would be what we're budgeting if we didn't get the state aids. That's the 255.6 or 25.56.
I mean, and if you have a thought of going with someone else or another,
I have no idea. I
Yeah, I mean, I
don't
can
even
certainly
know who the
reach out
So
to
judge
these
is.
this Meraki
Yep.
is who we're currently with?
yes. Meraki is just the equipment, I mean, it's a Meraki.
Through CWMR?
Yes,
Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
I did,
but
okay.
we pay for whatever replacement Meraki equipment we need. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
yeah.
I'm trying to-
Yeah, no, you're doing great.
Yeah, well, it does make
This
sense.
is, I didn't even know,
I never really thought,
I never
I just
realized
assumed
that.
everything was under World Bank.
I assumed it was under a town contract.
There
Yeah.
was a time that, I mean, I'm trying to think.
Before CWMRs?
Was there a time before CW?
There was.
I think we must have been going through World Bank before. I would think that we probably
I
were.
don't know.
But I knew that I think that it was relatively affordable through CWMRs and that we were going to have.
Have a hand with you guys?
Oh, boy, now we're going, I'm not sure.
I'm just going to speed check right now, just curiosity.
Yes. Well, you might get throttled for workstation,
That's
depending
awesome.
on what kind of trying they've got.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, it's like,
Yeah,
that's a lot of money, man,
it is,
connection.
yeah,
And I'm pretty sure I could run all the computers in this out of my house.
yeah,
See what I'm saying?
okay, yeah.
I think I do.
Legit.
So
Yeah.
there's like,
We're paying for the convenience of their service and the ability for them to troubleshoot and so forth.
yep, oh, that's good. I mean,
But
that's very good.
But if you think that, there's a way to look at it.
No, I'm curious, because all of the services you get as a library from a service provider like CWMRs might be actually pretty beneficial.
Right.
You don't want to be surprised, get a disconnection and take 5 weeks to recover from it.
Right.
Right,
Which is all not good.
right.
You know, if I get a problem, there's
Yeah,
some-
I mean, we haven't-
Out on the street, like, 3 days later,
Mhm.
trying to uncover buried lines and things.
Sure.
It's like a
Right.
pain in the butt.
Where CWMRs probably acts on it.
The service is immediate, I mean, it typically is.
Yeah, so
So that could
I'm
be
not,
the benefit
Yeah,
enough.
no.
it's just a lot of money.
Yeah, but that could be benefit enough.
I mean, the
I
nice
guess-
thing about the grants is that it was taking it down to, what is that, like $500?
Oh, that's exceptional. Like, that was a bit mind blowing to me.
It's pretty
For
good.
annual, Yeah, annual.
Right.
It's Comcast that's coming to your door, so it's Comcast wire, so fiber's gonna run out there and then they're gonna coax it here. And it's not bad for download, it's not great for upload, but that may also just be a
What do you
single
get?
point. 235 download, but maybe 6 upload. Megabytes per second.
6?
I know, that's what I said too. That's why I don't think it's fiber to the building, so, but it's okay.
Yeah, I was lost a long time.
But long and the short is,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting to see, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer to stick with a service where we're getting grant money for it.
Right.
Yes, agreed.
True.
So, as long as that grant money's coming.
We're still paying a fee commensurate with what you would get at that throughput level. You see what I'm saying?
I know.
Even though you're getting grants,
Talking
we're
a
still
totally different
paying.
language.
I would say though, if you
Wah, wah,
want
wah, wah.
to explore, you want to explore an alternative, that would be a good idea to explore that within the next couple of months, because we have, we have to re-up at some point.
But that re-up's gonna be based on the state's budget cycle. So I assume that'll kick in commensurate with our budget cycle too.
Right.
So, okay, yeah, we've got a little time, but not a ton.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But yeah, if you
That may be a
want-
good question.
You were Lucy in school, weren't you?
No joke, I was Lucy for the senior year in Halloween. I swear to God, we were all my friends with peanuts. Oh, Lisa's on. Oh, no, that's Lee, never mind.
Hello.
I was like, Lisa's on.
Okay.
So, sorry, we've
No, it's all right.
Yeah.
more geek
Aline
time.
is on
Sorry.
too, just so.
Did you, anything that you want me to pass by my contact with CW Mars about this?
Not yet.
Okay.
Maybe we,
They're off.
maybe, yeah.
You just want to know what it all entails?
Yeah.
Have
what the-
something in writing
What
as
the
to
spec
what,
sheet is.
what they
What
give
they
you.
provide.
Got it.
Because that's a fair question.
It is.
Yeah, but like you said, as long as grant money is still paying for it, then would we lose the grant money if we didn't go with CW Mars? If the grant money still
Probably.
exists, if the grant money doesn't go away, if we chose to do it on our own, would we lose the grant money? It sounds like the grant money is going to CW Mars for libraries, which we might not have a hand in if we choose to go elsewhere.
But it sounds like we're still paying money on top of what the grant money would be.
Correct,
So it's like,
I know.
$500 annually,
it's pretty good.
$60 a month.
It's pretty good. You probably expect to pay higher.
Oh, no, yeah.
For like a gigabit connection, you expect a little bit higher.
Um, Yeah, but I understand if the grant money goes away, then that might be a whole different story. The problem is you just never know what's gonna happen with the grant money.
Sure.
No, it's true.
Yeah, let's just ask them, see if they can give you a spec sheet.
Okay, yeah, absolutely.
And the other question is, when will they know that they will have the grant money for FY '27? Like, what's roughly the timeline of when they normally find out? You know what I mean? There's gotta be an idea of when, they must know when they typically find out
Yeah.
if the grant money's gonna be available. I know that they can't really give you a set date, but like, typically we find out in whatever month, you know?
Yeah.
And then that way we have something to work with to know ahead of time, at
Yep.
least do our research.
It's 43 a month.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so, writing a spec sheet on what their cost entails, as well as knowing when they may know the grant money is
Right.
available or coming
Yeah.
for. So,
What's the typical timeline that they know the grant money's coming, so that we can.
Yep.
Or find out that it's not coming, you know what I mean, so that we.
Right.
Because that's when if it's not coming, that's when we really gotta scramble and decide what we're gonna do.
Okay,
And we don't wanna be at the point that we have an overlap without anything, because that would be bad,
Brain's always working,
right?
sorry.
I mean, something was going on
You're
over here.
spot on, you're nailing it, trust your gut. I'm on left field,
But
it's
I
okay.
feel like the crossover, if we had to leave one and go with another, would be,
We could do it pretty quick.
okay.
We need to.
And that's where you
We
need
could
to be, so.
piggyback, we could, I don't wanna call it a fine, but we could do a plus up on an existing contract within the town. So like there would be a way to make that happen where we can get service at the door likely uninterrupted. But the more time we have in advance, the better. Because then we can do some smart research. Yeah, so.
Anybody have any questions about the director's report? Budget, I won't, go through too much of that, but, couple areas to keep an eye on. We're a little over 50% spent in programming, not particularly unusual, a little over 50% spent in building maintenance. And about 57% spent in contracted services, keep an eye on those. Books, we are actually, well, we're at 28.5, and we should be like at 33.3 at this point, but that's, we'll get that squared away. I'm not concerned about that. Let's see. Supplies were ahead of where we were last year. That's all right too. We seem to have, I remember that there had been a balance in the supplies line at the end of the year, so that's all right. 30.4% of salary spent, 36.7% of operations, and you can see there 33.3% of the total budget. Anybody have any questions about the budget?
All right.
That.
My agenda. Okay, so policy update. I remember.
That's a security policy
That's a
that we talked
security
about
policy.
last month.
Yeah.
I did not get any comments back from anyone of any corrections or any changes.
I did not
Uh-oh.
look.
And that's my fault. Okay, then it's still my fault, but that's okay. That's okay. We'll I don't know that it makes logical sense to vote on it if we haven't necessarily reviewed it recently. So what I'll do is I will send it out and then set to vote, review and vote on it for next.
Okay.
Let's do that.
Okay.
And honestly, that's not a bad timing anyway, because that will allow us to sit down afterwards and.
I know you and I went through it piece by piece.
Yeah.
Certainly.
This past month has been just crazy.
It's, trust me, I get it.
And I'll put my eyes back on it again too.
Absolutely, that's perfect. So I will send it back out and we'll plan to vote next month.
Okay, perfect. Strategic plan.
A couple of things from that. Service to homebound. I have emailed with Amy about that. I actually talked to her on the phone as well. They don't have, there are fewer individuals who have been identified as homebound in this town than you would think. I thought that there were more than what she's mentioned to me so far. However, they're always looking to see if they can identify other individuals who definitely need services. So she mentioned putting a blurb into the senior newsletter.
Okay.
I asked her what the deadline was. I have not heard back from her on that, but certainly will look to put something in there about being willing to provide materials for homebound seniors.
Okay.
I think the one issue at this point is who would actually do the homebound service. She has some seniors who probably would be good candidates for that. I know originally when I talked to Alana Bodio that she talked about students doing that. I don't know if there are issues with that at all. Then there could be.
There may
I
be.
don't know.
On behalf of the school or on behalf of? Like, on behalf of the school, I can see a whole bunch of them.
But I probably on behalf of a club or a group, you know. I'd have to ask her a little bit more about that. I just don't know what.
Yeah,
if
I
that
mean,
would
maybe.
Introduce issues.
Yeah, like could it be National Honor Society hours, but then you're talking, they have to be driving to, you know, and then they're on the road and it's not a liability.
It might be
I mean,
something more appropriate for like senior abatement, which is possible, we could certainly look
Yeah.
into that. But in any event, the next thing is to really just kind of get the word out there that we are interested in doing that and see if there are any takers. See if there is a response, individuals who are interested in.
yeah, who
receiving
would you even
materials.
ask about the students? Like, who would you go to? Superintendent?
Sean, I mean.
Sure, I know, but would it go,
Yeah, yeah.
right, but would it go through the superintendent, like, would, I
Might
just
be
feel like
go-
they'd be
might
a
go right to
larger,
National Honor Society.
Okay.
Say, is that an appropriate thing to do?
okay,
And then, because they're constantly looking for projects,
that gives their kids hours, right?
Right.
that not only gives hours, but also to get a project to sponsor them into National Honor Society.
Oh, okay,
So they're constantly looking, kids are constantly looking for
Yeah.
projects. So that's part of the whole acceptance in National Honor Society.
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, it would be important as long as there were no liabilities on our end with students striving to deliver these.
Right. Yep. I mean, I'm
not sure about the
too.
Yeah.
kids that are trying to get in, it's probably gonna be
They,
sophomore, juniors.
so they might, they,
not
right off
have
the top, do not have their license yet.
Yeah,
But the hours for the NHS kids. might be perfect.
Yeah, you could definitely look into it.
And then, so going down that road, you could also, organizations like either Eagle Scouts, so senior community projects for Eagle Scout, or for, the senior Girl Scouts.
Yeah.
Same,
Yeah,
same
not
type,
bad, yeah,
same type of idea. But again,
Or scouts.
Scouts
scouts in general,
in
right?
general. But again, that age, hitting that right age to make sure someone's got a license is key. In addition, that would not be consistent. You would get it for a year, and then it may not transition to someone else. So depending upon how you want to look at the program, it may be smarter to say what's consistent, and then can we augment that consistent with, someone who's looking for a project.
Hey, Chuck,
right.
So,
Yeah.
Chuck just volunteered.
No, my hand went down, not up.
Chuck always comes in at the right time.
The other thing, I was going to, when I went over to talk to Julie Stanton, said, NISCO, I wanted to stop and just introduce myself to the principal. She was in the midst of a parent meeting,
Okay.
meeting with parents. And so Julie said that she would talk to the principal, just say that I wanted to introduce myself, so on. And I know that we talked about the bus stop issue, that she was kind of on board with that. So,
Work through it.
yeah. And so the next thing is Julie said she'd reach out to her. I have to talk to Tara and get back to Julie. So
So
we'll,
this is a while ago, but I wrote you a note about that.
yes.
So.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it sounds to me like it could be something that could be done, but I just need to hash out.
Yeah, absolutely, we've got to come up with a set of whatever required.
Right, exactly.
So, yeah, I think this is.
Yeah.
I think I forgot what my letter said. Oh, I do. I do have. So it says, check it, it says, brought this up with, Ann Karen.
Yep.
And we met together in this one, she said she's really excited about getting library engagements. So she
Okay, good.
knows about that.
Excellent.
So there's a lot of regulations and issues. Right now.
Yeah, I remember that.
But she said as long as they have some, as long as we can work out everything, it's like how do we handle disabled students, managing complaints, any kind of complaints.
Right.
But if we start small and build slowly, is what she said.
Okay.
So maybe it's just a certain set of kids,
Yeah.
and it's a limited population, we have a defined bus, and it's
Yeah.
1 or 2 days a week.
Start it off.
Okay. Yeah.
That's essentially what she said.
Excellent.
But, maybe the next step is to just get an appointment with Ann Karen.
Right, I think, yeah.
She's basically psyched about getting engaged. So
Good,
that'll be
good.
You know?
Yeah, I mean, I know she's obviously been really busy, so.
Yeah, very busy. I can work on
Yeah.
that too.
I mean, if you happen to see her, I would let her know that I wanted to talk to her about it, but other than that, I'll certainly reach out and try to get something together even if it was just me stopping by briefly to touch base with her, because I haven't really met her yet. So. So that was pretty much it in terms of the plan. I did go through, I think I mentioned this last time, I went through the goals. I was amazed at how many things
Yeah, we really have
have been
checked a lot of
touched on.
boxes. Yeah.
One of these times, I didn't bring it with downstairs with me here, but, we can just, it probably wouldn't take very long, I could go through the whole list for you. Handful of things, roof leaks, outreach, the program survey I need to put together, staff professional development was on there, so I need to think about that. But I mean, literally 3/4 of the things that were on there, it seemed to me, have been addressed in some fashion.
That's great.
I mean, but we are getting to the end, it's amazing, we're getting to the end of that plan.
Sure.
So, I don't know if it's in a year or two. I don't know, I'm assuming that it's basically back to square one and we need to develop another 5-year strategic plan. I don't know if there needs to be time between them, how that exactly works, but in any event. Some libraries go from one right to the next. They, list a consultant. And then they start to put together the next 5-year plan, which wouldn't not make sense.
Sure.
So, but I think I appreciated working with our last consultant, but I think I'd like to try something different next time. I think having a new perspective would be good.
Yeah.
Somebody that I know of individuals who have been talked about in emails back and forth between library directors that are really good.
Oh, good.
And so it's just a matter of deciding. So, but a different perspective, I think. So that is that.
Rectory Subcommittee, we are not meeting this evening. We're kind of in limbo a little bit, but at the stage that we're going to, we kind of have to really get a sign off from the trustees before we can move forward. So we'll have to plan a presentation or something.
Has everyone had a chance to review the plan that was sent?
I mean, as far as just this, I mean, it looks like a building plan.
Right.
It is,
The
and
only
it,
question I would have is some of the big ticket line items, just understand what exactly what I know. It's not an unusual question, it's not a complex or challenging question.
Right.
What is it?
Right.
sure. Which ones?
Oh, of course, I do this at the school committee meetings too, is I've got a gigantic chart of all these charges, and I just go to the biggest one first. So I just go right down, okay, what's more than $100,000? So, there's expanded parking area, I understand that. Rough carpentry, that's a lot of rough carpentry. I'm wondering, what that's for, so ripping down walls, putting, what is that?
Yes, so that would be almost all internal carpentry, including the carpentry for the access and egress, the not elevator, but the elevator light. That would be on the outside.
Okay.
And part of the challenge there was when you go through the existing building, you have a stairwell that's built in the center of it. So by getting rid of that and doing the carpentry to then support those walls and everything else, and putting that on the outside, that costs.
Okay, well that makes a lot of sense. It's all load-bearing stuff.
Right.
So I understand. So then, obviously, the elevator itself is $119,000. And the electrical, believe it or not, yes, I completely understand.
Yeah.
So that is, I mean, that is it. That's the chart, that's it. So,
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
and then as I was going through, I don't think there's anything, there's nothing that's unusual in its size or scope. Pretty straightforward.
It is, and the one thing I was thankful for, is, especially when you look down at the bottom, they did that 15% override cost. So it's a smart recognition by the consultant, by the architect to say, hey, you're not likely starting this tomorrow, so costs are going to change. And it enables us as a group to be able to say, hey, so here's raw cost, or at least a base, smart raw cost, but then a smart understanding of what that cost could grow into, even in a short period of time.
Yep.
I was in different conversations with Jeremy. There was a lot of discussion back and forth about cost of rebuilding or redoing a building versus building something new. And we were all a bit surprised at actually how low the cost was in comparison to building something fresh. So we were, I was flabbergasted, honestly, at kind of where the number came in, because I was expecting more.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's mostly based on other projects we'd either looked at or other designs that had happened within recent times. So that was refreshing, and especially when you talk about the cost per square foot being, I think, around $5 versus the 10 that we're seeing for new builds right now. But those are rough numbers out of my memory bank, so if they're wrong, please bear with me. But it was interesting to see. So from a subcommittee perspective, our big next step would be the ask of the trustees for us to be able to say, yes, you either agree or disagree with what has come forward. And then that would enable us to take it up to Jeremy officially and start putting it up towards the capital planning group.
So the only question I would have then is, let's say we go through with this, do we want to have a list of options for Jeremy, or would you rather not do that? And
What do you mean by options?
like, are there things within this plan that you could cut out of it, come up with a cheaper cost, for instance?
Okay.
Right? Or do you not want to do that?
So we went in with the architects at we're not looking for anything fancy.
Right.
So they went in at costs, in most cases, a smart cost based on construction today.
Yeah.
They didn't add fluff, except for that 15%.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if we were able to shoot for the moon, the bigger question could we expand the building?
Yeah.
And, grow it to be twice its size? But we don't have plans for that. And we had started this project under the idea of we have a footprint in a building that we don't want to have fall down next to us.
Right.
How can we use what's there? Personally, and I cannot speak for everyone in this, personally, I would not want to go in with a list of options. I would want to go in and say, here's where we are. If we have the choice of tearing this down and making it a blank spot next to the library, or we have an option of doing something with it, and this is what it is. That's
I
James's
agree with
opinion.
that. I agree
I
with
would vote for not having an option as well.
Yeah.
So it just becomes a
Yeah.
question of whether you wanna,
Yeah.
whether they're going to say, yeah, we can do a debt exclusion, and how you get
Right.
that approved.
Right.
So the other thing is this estimate close to, like, those steps through construction can be like coming with 60% estimate, and then once they start doing all the initial work of remodeling, they can find problems during the way, and then you have change orders and things like that.
Sure.
So they usually come up with 60%. How close is this to 60%? It's probably right on target.
I believe it is. We can go back and double check the parameters that we had during the initial feasibility study, but I'm pretty sure it is. And that's, at least from the discussions with the architect, that was one of the primary reasons they're like, hey, we're gonna make sure you understand what the total cost could be, and that's why they did the 15 on top.
So that all makes sense to me.
Okay.
Are we able to put it to a vote?
I'm gonna put a motion forward of voting to select the rectory feasibility study,
Reuse feasibility study.
thank you.
Yep.
And to give the authorization for the Taft trustees to present to the town capital planning and town administrator.
I would second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Do we have to do the Allison Chu I thing?
Would you
I don't
not-
think so, because Elena and Lee's, I think, logged off, but Elena's not a voting member, so I don't
Okay.
think we need to do that.
Okay, that's good.
There she is.
Hi, Elena. Okay, so approved. All right, so then our next step is we can find time to present to Jeremy and
Yep.
capital planning?
Mm-hmm,
Okay.
absolutely.
So
Super.
let me know when you want to do
All right, cool.
that.
Well,
I mean, I'm happy to be part of it, but let me
No,
know.
I owe Phil a call anyway, so that we can get, when the next meeting is gonna be happening. So
Okay.
we can be on the docket for that meeting.
Okay, yeah, that's fine, just let me know when it is,
Okay.
and we'll come up with a presentation plan. Okay, any topics not anticipated within the last 48 hours?
I mean, we can table this till next time, the whole.
Oh, yeah, no.
This is a perfect example
This
of
is it,
topic.
yes.
But
Go
it's
for it.
just like the beginnings of what's the general consensus with other local libraries about no-show policy for programming. I did reach out to even a few more than this, and obviously I found this Illinois library that's kind of fairly, obvious no-show policy. It's a chronic problem with every librarian that I spoke with. Most of them seemed, a little hesitant to put out a policy that might make people angry
Be
or,
restrictive.
Yeah.
be restrictive but it's also not fair. In terms of fairness, there's fairness to the people who sign up, but then there's fairness to the people who sign up and are on a wait list, and there's empty slots and they don't
Don't get
have
to
an
go, right.
opportunity. So there's 4 examples of wording. They kind of all from each of the library. They say it in just a little different way, but it's mostly if you don't show up, you can be blocked from registering for up to 3 months.
Okay.
Kind of at the librarian's discretion. I know, a child who's missed 3 programs within a 6-month period without notification in advance will not be allowed to register for programs for a period. This one, the Lexington Library is 6 months. So you're banned for 6 months from signing up for any program. Bristol, Mass is also 3 separate occasions. So it's the 3 strikes. Policy seems to be, seems to be what most of the libraries that have a policy now say. Every librarian who responded, even if they don't have a policy, said, we have a chronic problem as well. We just have not figured out a way to address it.
So the Upton Library does not have
No.
one, Ashland does.
Yep. And
Wilford does not, okay,
I reached out to a few more and I haven't heard back.
okay.
But there's, every single library has a website with librarians' email addresses. I don't mind even, continuing the search and see if I can find a few more yeses and see what they say.
Did you reach out to Hopedale?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, did not hear back, but I can certainly try again.
Yeah, and I'm friendly with one of the trustees over there, so I can, and Tara's friend, Chris Seaver.
Yep.
I can reach out to her too if you don't, yeah.
If you don't mind, that would be
You've
great.
reached out to like a library director there,
It's whatever the
whatever's on the website.
on their
first.
website.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do,
Northborough, Hopkinton, Holliston, Grafton, Uxbridge, Hopedale, and I
Okay.
didn't hear back from them.
Okay, so yeah, I can reach out to Chris Seaver and just ask her
Okay.
if she can touch base with the Hopedale to see.
in the meantime, do you want me to start crafting something from the ones that are here? Or do you want to,
Well, this goes to the discussion we we're having
yeah,
before the meeting.
Right, yeah, that's true.
So it comes down to, in a small town where you've been very friendly to the users of the library. Do we want to take a punitive policy, or do we want to take a more, look, you lose it, you lost it, try again later.
right,
Kind of, it's not our fault, it's yours, kind of philosophy. Which would rely on a system like James and I were talking about, which may or may not be in use already in the town. So we may be able to check somebody in the town to see if they're using something like that.
Yeah.
So the idea would be that if you sign up for something, you tell them you're tentatively reserved. This depends on your attendance. We're gonna check with you at 48 hours, you need to confirm at 48 hours. If you don't confirm, we're gonna give it to somebody else.
Hmm.
And then if you do confirm, we expect you to be there 15 minutes early. If not, we're gonna try to get somebody else on the list to take your place, because we wanna give as many opportunities as we can to the backup list or to the wait list.
Sure, yep.
And that should be well understood by everyone. And if they, if we can get as many people, we can recover as many spots as we can without being punitive, I think that's an asset.
Right.
To the library. And then if they figure out, they really got me on time.
So start with something along those lines, which is, if you
I
haven't
don't know
communicated
if
with
everybody
us.
agrees with that, but.
Yeah.
that's-
Well, it seems to me that it would,
That's
I would
what the doctor's office does to me.
I would prefer that to, okay, well, here, after these three, now suddenly you're banned for
Yeah,
3
because if you think about it, if the doctor did that to me, I would say you're giving up on my health.
Yeah,
Right.
Because I'm late, or-
right,
Yeah.
right.
That's kind of.
Yeah, I
how
feel
you
like
react.
I feel like if that policy where 3 strikes you're banned for 3 months or whatever,
Mhm.
that's gonna make that person be like, I'm not going to the library
I'm not
at
gonna
all,
go there. I'm not
let
gonna-
alone, never mind programming, I'm just not going.
Yeah, they're not flexible.
Yeah, so we don't wanna come across that way either, but
3 months is a long time
How-
for kids, for parents of kids.
yeah,
Would people react that way if they don't communicate within 48 hours prior to the,
It's all in your email, yeah.
yeah,
You didn't reply,
right,
that was what we did, we did exactly, it was tentative when we gave it to you,
right,
we needed to reply to the budget.
yeah,
And so that we all are on the same page for that, the town already has certain push notification systems that uses cell phones or other things. So our bigger question is whether the town already has an existing contract or software that we could tag onto and use it for this specific need. On top of that, since our other conversation earlier, this is a question to the internet protocols that you're
good
gonna get
point.
from CW Mars. CW Mars service may have something built in that could do this.
That's a good point.
that is a good point.
So if we're paying them already and getting state grants for it, maybe there's already a program.
So, but the other thing that might tie into it is, whatever you use for your event booking right now. Like, I know we just changed recently.
yeah.
So you sign up through the website, you get an automatic email saying you've been signed up.
That service may already have it too. We may just need to.
I can't imagine that it wouldn't.
Yeah.
So we can look in.
Cool.
They can get them, I mean, email isn't always observed, you get them in different avenues.
Text, I mean, the text.
Right.
Like if it was a push, they say, type stop.
And our discussion about this, and I think is a very important one, we do not want to make a bigger workload for our library staff.
Absolutely.
We need a system that's there to do the work.
Yes.
Because you guys have to do the work,
And it's more automated.
that's gonna be hell. And that's not a comment on our staff, we have exceptional people, it's just managing all of that pain. So,
The only thing you might have to do in a system like that is say, when the spots become available to young people, then someone might want to do the outreach
sure,
to the wait list to see. if-
So I think we currently probably do that now, correct? Like, does your staff still call people or no longer call?
Well, we used to do that.
But now we
They
get
are
the
getting,
reminders.
my understanding is they're getting reminders.
I believe we get an email
Yeah,
reminder.
there's an email reminder, but there may be more that
But
the system can do.
Yeah, the system can do it.
Yeah.
Especially
It's who.
gather acknowledgements, gather acknowledgements, whether they responded in time,
Yes,
all that.
because we need to be able to track that. So like, there's 20 participants, people who signed up, we sent out that, how many responded? If it's just 10,
And there might be
Then
some
the other-
people who call in saying, oh my God, I didn't respond in time, is it still available? You say,
Right.
well, you can be on the wait list.
right,
Well, yeah, there is still a
We've had
spot available.
wait list, those who are on the wait list occupy your spot, so.
So
Yeah.
can we say then for the next meeting, for you to meet with Tara prior to and get us a better handle of what our system does currently and what it potentially
could do.
capabilities are of what our current system is, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I wouldn't even write anything up at this point, I would just wait and see.
And find
we
out
can do
what-
and-
What are
Yeah.
Who-Fi's capabilities? in
Yeah.
terms of Notifications.
This feels better because it puts the responsibility on the parent and it doesn't have to be.
I would rather start
Keep
there.
on signing up again and again and again and not be able to respond.
When somebody like, and I apologize, I don't recall her name, I wanna say Cheryl, but is that right, Cheryl, that comes with the van and all the kids in her daycare? Is that her name?
Oh, yeah, sure.
When someone like her signs her, children up, or not her children, but her daycare
Yeah.
children, does she sign each individual child up, or does she sign up kind of as a group?
I think she signs each individual child,
Okay.
based on what I.
All right, then that's fine.
Seen in doing
Under
some.
her number, under
Yeah, it's under
her
her number, but
email,
there's,
or whatever,
each individual is signed up, so it's got
Separately,
10
okay.
kids.
okay, that's fine, I just, yeah, but that's how, I mean, she's really the only one that does that.
Yeah,
Because she
she
has her
really
day,
is.
you know, she brings her daycare to
And-
every,
That's part of doing business
right,
as well.
Right.
So she's running a business.
Yeah.
And that's, which is exceptional, and she's using a great resource for free here.
yeah,
So, there's nothing wrong with asking that.
no, I was just curious, but yeah, she would get,
Imagine if she got dinged and had to wait 3 months to be accepted into the program.
Exactly.
Freaky.
Exactly.
Probably would, because literally in the summer, they structure their summer around.
they do structure the summer, you see them more in the summer, definitely.
The car breaks down, can't be there, oh my God.
I mean, sometimes that happens,
Sure.
sure,
I
so,
hate being the anger into that.
Yeah, agreed.
yeah, so,
There's
let me
obviously
touch
exceptions
base
to every rule, I suppose.
and find out what it's currently, I'm pretty sure I know what it's currently doing, what I'm really curious about is what else it
What are the
potentially could.
capabilities, right?
So, okay,
I don't know enough about the new one,
yeah,
I feel like an event, to get,
event keeper.
event keeper
was the one,
was the
previous
old one.
Yeah.
I feel like I knew that a little bit more, but that probably had less, and this one's supposed better,
I think
right?
I personally think it's better. I think just in terms of the calendar that's displayed, everything that's.
Interface is easy.
It is. It just looks better. It's more straightforward. But I don't know about some of this.
All right then, we got a plan. So, we got a motion to adjourn? Oh, so we set our next meeting.
Oh, next meeting.
I believe that the trustees, we are the trustees.
Oh, the
When
next.
we're at the subcommittee, we assumed the trustee meeting would be December 11th.
Yes, I think that is what we assumed, that's
Okay.
right.
So
Okay,
does that
double check.
work?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, rectory, I've got rectory down, rectory subcommittee on the 11th at 7.
Yep,
Okay, so
perfect.
we'll do
6.
trustees at 6 o'clock on December 11th.
Okay, I do have a conflict, but that's okay.
Okay.
Always,
I will make sure you have the policy to review.
okay, thank you.
I'm sure. I put forward a motion to adjourn.
I second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we will stop recording. Or recording transcribed. Stop recording.
Great job.
You can leave the